students and staff to carry weapons on university campuses for self-defense. Antonia, thank you very much for joining us today. And just tell us a little bit, first of all, about why you campaign on this issue. What's the motive for you campaigning on it?
Yeah, well, I campaign on it because I believe I'm a feminist first. I believe that a firearm is a great equalizer. And I was tired of women on college campuses being victims of sexual assault and assault in general. And I wanted a way to protect myself and those I cared about. And so that's why I started advocating for if I was able to protect myself off campus, then I should have that same right on campus where I spend 90% of my time.
And clearly you believe that it's always the right time to talk about this because, you know, in relation to the Florida shooting and other mass shootings, some people, notably politicians, have said now is not the time to talk about gun control in general. But you don't have a problem debating this, do you?
Well, I find it interesting that those same people are the first ones to start talking about gun control. Hashtag gun control now was trending just hours after it happened. So yeah, on the gun control side, they seem to think they can dictate that. But I think that's something that we're going to have to talk about. Of course, the condolences for those people who have been the friends and family of the victims. Absolutely. But, you know, if we're going to be talking about gun control, then we should also talk about the fact that there's mental health illness to talk about. And there's also the fact that we should be empowering law-abiding citizens who want to stop the bad guys from doing what they're doing when incidents like this happen.
Let me pick up on that phrase you used, empowering law-abiding citizens. So you've got law-abiding citizens and you've got people who have perhaps psychological issues, and no one is disputing that someone who takes a gun and commits mass murder isn't thinking like a normal rational person. But surely the issue is that gun laws in the United States, as they stand, allow individuals access to weapons, perhaps without the full background checks that many would argue ought to be run.
No, I would argue against that. I think the fact of the matter is that human nature goes down to a heart issue, that those criminals who are having the intent of doing harm are going to do harm. Regardless if they get it legally or legally. I think it is our duty to make sure that those who are behind the firearm are those who should have it. Absolutely, we should do whatever we can to make sure that happens. I think the issue has been with that. Where is the line? Do we say that those who are dealing with clinical depression at one time or another, or anxiety, those people are the same people who shouldn't be able to protect themselves? That's the conversation that I'm glad that President Trump brought up with his speech, is that this is an issue that we should talk about. Stop talking about an inanimate object like the firearm and talking about the person behind the firearm and what we can do to save innocent lives in the future.
Do you think, though, the issue has become too politicized and that is getting in the way of sensible debate between those largely on the right, Republicans, and of course lots of Democrats advocate for you know, gun ownership as well, but largely it's those on the right, the Republicans, who are saying there shouldn't be any infringement to these Second Amendment rights, versus those on the left, Democrats, who say there needs to be a bigger conversation about gun control. So do you think that this has become too politicized and that is getting in the way of a sensible debate?
Absolutely. I think that it's become too politicized. I will disagree that those on the right would say that for the majority, it would say that there shouldn't be any type of restrictions on firearm ownership or who has it. Just like on the left, there are a lot of people who are Democrats. Even Bernie Sanders has been very known to be pro-gun with his state. So I think it comes down to the fact that also, you know, almost 30% of the NRA, for example, identify as Democrats. So this is not a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian issue. It's an issue of the Second Amendment and our rights as Americans and citizens, and also making sure that those who are law-abiding and who are responsible firearm owners are the ones who are able to hold that and make sure those people don't.
Does the average American really need, or ought they have the right to, a weapon that's more suited to a battlefield? This assault rifle, the AR-15 that was used by Nicholas Cruz, that was used by the Las Vegas gunman in a modified form so he could shoot people more quickly, in the Sandy Hook shootings, in the Colorado cinema shootings. Does the average American really have the right to that sort of weapon?
Well, I think just you talking about the assault rifle and the names of the AR-15. The AR-15 AR does not mean assault rifle. It means Armalite rifle. It has nothing to do with
It
assault
can
or
be
non-assault
modified, though,
weapons.
to act as one, can't it?
So assault, when you're saying that, you're usually saying full auto. So we're talking about AR-15s, which are semi-automatic weapons, which are one trigger pull, one shot per trigger pull. And so I think that's part of the conversation. Is there's a lot of misinformation out there that really just scares people when it comes down to it. I have an AR-15. I'm, a law-abiding citizen, Gold Award, upstanding citizen, and a lot of people who have them have actually been able to defend people's lives with them, even civilians. We see that with Sutherland Springs when he was able to actually protect more victims from happening at the mass shooting in South Texas.
But would you accept that the American gun laws, as they stand, give people who wish to commit these acts of mass murder the means? They might have the motive, they might have the opportunity. The easy access to these guns gives them the means to kill more people. You must accept that, surely.
No, I don't think we have easy access to firearms. I think it comes down to...
But lots of states don't even require people to have permits. They don't have, serious background checks, for example.
No, background checks have to do with the fact of when you purchase a firearm, wherever you are, whichever state you are, you have to go through a background check. So again, more misinformation, regardless if it's a permit or not, you have to go through a background check when you purchase a firearm. So no, I do think that's something that we already have in this country. And those who are concealed carry permit holders are not the ones who are implementing these types of crimes. It's those who who are criminals who have had history of mental health and illness before. And that's why I think it's important that President Trump brought up that fact that is a conversation that we need to focus on now from here on after, because it's not about the gun, it's about the person behind the firearm.
Just on that final point about, mental health again, in the last few years, there was in Florida, in fact, there was the Firearms Owners Privacy Act, and this was something that the NRA, an NRA representative testified that questioning patients about gun ownership is to satisfy a political agenda. Now, this was an act that attempted to block doctors from questioning patients if they were concerned about their mental health, about whether they had a gun at home. And the NRA testified to try to support that block, and this was in Florida. I mean, how can you say that these cases are about an individual's mental health and then, have the NRA try to block doctors from finding out whether someone is suited to own a gun?
Because it comes down to the fact that it's not just, we just say the NRA as if they don't have over 5 million members behind them, people like me, a member, that are concerned of the line, a slippery slope of, are you putting those same people who are clinically depressed at one point or have severe anxiety at one point in with other people who have schizophrenia and in with other people who have serious mental health diseases? Until we can figure out and make sure that there's a way that those two are not conjoined, then we have to make sure that that's not going to be an issue for the everyday average citizen. So I think there's a lot more things to talk about when it comes to that, and it's a conversation that the NRA and most people are willing to have. But yet now we can actually talk about that because, again, we're talking about mental health illness. And I think it's going to be something both the governor in Florida is really willing to talk about now, and also the president of the United States is willing to talk about as well.
Antonia Okafor, thank you very much for your time.
We will make America great again.